Hello and welcome to this month's featured pattern designer. If you're not familiar, I am Jessica, the knitting pattern designer and design coach behind Snickerdoodle Knits, the Design Circle podcast, all the things. And I am so excited that today I have Johanna of Anna Johanna joining. And I see that she is on and has sent a request. Hello, Maria Elise. Make sure my volume's on. There we go. Hello.
Hi.
How are you?
I'm good, thanks. How are you?
Good. I'm so excited to have you here.
I'm really excited too. I'm just trying to unravel this little spasm yarn here so that I can do a bit of winding while we chat.
That's funny because what I am currently working on is a bunch of unraveling too. I've gotten this far and I'm working around the round.
Oh, no.
And then I'll be winding. So. Oh. Well, I always think it's fun to start these by asking you, as the featured designer, to describe yourself in 3 words.
Oh no, that's terribly difficult. Well, I would describe my designs as romantic. Myself, a very kind of a laid back, relaxed dresser myself, and then I have a really bad sense of humor.
I love it.
Not exactly 3 words, but something along those lines.
That's perfect. That's so fun. The reason I love that question so much is that it always helps us see just a little bit more into who designers actually are, because those are the kinds of things that we typically don't just talk about. If we're talking about your design journey and stuff, you're not oh, I just have a really weird sense of humor. That's not something that comes up. And so it's so fun. Thank you so much for playing along.
That comes up when you're not prepared to answer.
Yes. So Johanna, do you want to share a little bit about what you do with Anna Johanna Designs?
Okay. Well, I've been designing, doing patterns for sale since 2016. I started my own business back in 2018, and then 2020, just before COVID hit, I left my old day job as a researcher at the local university and started doing knitwear designs full time.
Yeah,
and that is what I do.
that is so exciting. So what does a typical day in the life of Johanna look like?
Right now, at the moment, a typical day is just me trying to survive the nights with a little toddler. She has just started daycare in September, and now we're mostly just down with the flu all the time. Trying to recover from that. But
yeah,
usually when I'm up for working, you would think that it would mean me knitting around all day, but usually it just means that I'm sitting at the computer for hours and hours nonstop, editing photos and
yes,
going through test knits and that kind of things. And then I usually sit by the TV a couple hours each night knitting.
Yes. Do you find that what you enjoy knitting and what you enjoy designing are similar, or are they different?
They're somewhat similar and somewhat different. I always design for myself clothes that I want to wear, and also things that I like to knit. There's always something, I always do a little interesting details to keep myself interested, but then when I call these holiday knits, I take a little holiday from designing and work on someone else's design, and I always pick something that's as difficult as possible because I really enjoy challenges.
Yes.
I like doing things the difficult way, but that doesn't really work when you're trying to provide yourself with knitwear designing because people usually love simple patterns.
Yeah. Yeah. It's I always love to ask this question because it's only been more recently that my designing and my knitting interests have like started to align. It used to be that they were totally different. Well, I guess more so like what I like to wear and what I like to knit. But like I like to wear more simple things. And but what I enjoyed designing and knitting was more complicated things. And so it's only been like in the last year or so that I've like started to enjoy more simple knits, and therefore I feel like now it actually is starting to line up like all right, I like to design and knit and wear the same stuff.
I usually like to have two projects on my needles, one that is difficult and requires some brain power to get through, and then something that is completely mindless, like just endless rows of stockinette stitch so that you can knit while watching TV.
Yes. Yeah. Before I forget, I was going to mention that you host a tea time knit and chat kind of thing over on
Yeah.
your Instagram regularly. So if there's any folks from my following that don't know you, definitely check that out. You host it both in English and in Finnish. Is that right?
Yeah, I do the English speaking tea time once every 2 weeks, and then every other week is in Finnish.
Yes. Yes.
And it's really laid back. I'm like, it's so laid back that I'm usually late for it myself.
It's funny because it seems like usually I have all of my Instagram notifications disabled, so it doesn't like tell me when I'm not in the app. But it seems like every time I'm on the app and you're live and I go on, it's the week when it's finished speaking. So maybe someday I'll actually catch you in English.
But yeah, I try to do it always on Sundays so that you can at least remember the day.
Yeah.
But I kind of I don't decide the exact time beforehand, not that too many days before, because you can never know. A life with a toddler, you kind of have to fit it in between her naps. Yeah. So I usually give a warning a couple days ahead.
Sounds good. Yeah. Okay, so you've already mentioned your toddler several times. How has that changed your like the pace at which you're designing and knitting, or has it?
Well, it definitely has. Like it's kind of a funny thing. I used to work as a researcher at the university here, and it was just burning me out, that lifestyle. It was too hectic, too stressful and everything, and I was so happy leaving that life behind because I didn't want to deal with the stress anymore. So I find my design job really relaxed and I enjoy it a lot. But if I'm allowed, I will be sitting by the computer like 12 hours non-stop. Like it's usually I go to my computer in the morning, and then late at night hubby comes in and tells me, you might want to come to bed right now. And I may have forgotten to eat and all that, but still it doesn't feel stressful at all. But now with the toddler, there is no way that I can be working 12-hour days. Like what I enjoy most is that you don't have any schedules in this line of work, because I'm employing myself, so I don't have any that kind of deadlines. So I can work when I feel like I'm in the zone, and then I can take 3 days off and do nothing.
Yes.
But now with our little girl, so as I mentioned, she has just started daycare, so now I have to work those hours.
How is that transition going?
Rough. Like in my previous life, before our precious little baby, I am not a morning person. So I enjoyed my work at the university also because there were no set working hours there either. You could
Mm-hmm.
just show up when you felt like it.
Yeah.
So I was never there at 8 a.m. in the morning. And
Yeah.
now, now there's this little person I have to drop off at the daycare like before 8.
Oh,
But
yeah.
yeah, she has a more strict schedule than I do.
Yes. She runs the house now.
Yeah, pretty much.
That's so fun. I can relate so much. I don't have children, but I'm a night owl, and like you were talking about just working for 12 hours straight and stuff like that. That's something I've been working a lot more against this year because it is just my tendency to just work nonstop and not take 3 days off when I feel like it. But then, so I'm a night owl, but then my spouse is even more so a night owl. And so, if I get into the zone and I just want to work, he's not going to come tell me I should go to bed. I'm always the one who will tell him he should go to bed. But yeah, so that is, I can totally relate. Also, hello to everybody joining us live. It's so fun to see you. I've been trying to watch. I don't think there's been any comments, but feel free to chime in anytime. If you have any questions for Johanna or I guess for myself, feel free to ask. But Johanna, so you said you started designing for yourself when you were 16. How did you first start knitting and designing?
I don't actually remember when I learned to knit. I'm pretty sure mom has taught me before I went to school, but here in Finland, everyone, at least the girls, are taught to knit on
Mm,
third grade.
okay.
Yeah. And then some people pick up on it and some don't. So there's usually like this task of knitting a pair of socks, and other people end up with a pair of socks, and others end up with a sock puppet that doesn't have a heel. But I always loved it a lot. I started knitting like more seriously when I was maybe 15 years old. And I had a few subscriptions, like couple magazines coming to the house, but there wasn't really a lot to choose from. So after a couple years of knitting from those magazines, I started just modifying patterns and coming up with my own, just so that I could have something that looked a bit different.
Uh-huh.
But then I started blogging, having this Where We Once Knitted blog with my best friend. I think we started back in 2011, maybe. Jeez, that is a long time ago. We did that for a couple of years, and then I started writing patterns because it just kind of was the next step.
Yeah. Yeah, that's so interesting. Um, so this is purely like curious about how schools work in Finland, but if the girls are learning to knit, what do the other students do?
They have woodcrafts.
Okay. And did you ever learn any of that?
Yeah, there. I I don't actually know how the system is these days. I think they have these kind of soft and hard crafts for all the students, but back in my days, it was usually that you chose one and then you stuck with it. But then there was this one period where you had like 6 months of the other.
Okay.
So all the girls went to carve some bird feeding platters and stuff like that.
Yeah, because I never had a knitting class, never had that as an option. But in middle school, which is like, it was seventh grade for me, um, we had, we could take wood shop and we could take sewing. So I had it then, but Yeah, that's really interesting. So then your first designs that you published, what were you designing? Like, did you have any specific theme or like types of accessories or garments or things?
I'm a sweater knitter, so it's been sweaters all along.
Always been sweaters.
Yeah, my first like real graded pattern was it's called La Grasse Matinée. I'm not actually sure how to pronounce it. My friend named it because she told me that it's a great name for a lazy Sunday sweater. It's a really simple, super relaxed, loose raglan sleeve sweater, and it was the first one I graded properly and got it right. And I published it for free on the blog. And then let me see, my first pattern that I did one that's up for sale on Ravelry called Primrose, which was the first one that I've been selling, and it sold like maybe 3 copies, which was super exciting at the time.
Yes.
And then a couple months later, there was this Finnish yarn brand called Snickerdoodle. I don't know if you've heard it, but it's a really, I think it's probably nowadays the most known, internationally known Finnish yarn brand, and they make yarn from Finnish wool, like Finnish sheep breeds.
Uh-huh.
And my friend, there was this woman who started the brand, and then she wanted to quit. She wanted to go into some other adventures. And my friend, who owns the local yarn shop here in this town, bought the business for the yarn. And then, of course, I wanted to try and design something because now it was her yarn.
Yes.
So I made this cardigan called One, which is a really nice, very simple set-in sleeve cardigan. It's otherwise stockinette stitch, but the back has a lace panel, like the whole back wide.
Mm-hmm.
And I made one for myself, and then I made one for my friend because we were both graduating, got our PhDs like 2 weeks apart. So I made the other for her as a graduation present, and then I published that pattern. And then it like the first one sold like 3 copies, and this one I don't even remember how many, but like it was a big difference. And so I got really excited that maybe after all I could maybe start actually doing this, because this is a bit of an embarrassing story. I've been dreaming of being a fashion designer since I was like 6 years old.
Uh-huh.
We had 3 channels in the Finnish television back when I was a kid. And one of those channels was showing one soap opera from the States, The Bold and the Beautiful, which is set in this fashion industry kind of thing. So I used to watch that with my dad. I couldn't even, it's subtitled here in Finland, and I couldn't even read the subtitles, but my dad was reading them to me out loud so that I could watch the soap opera with him. And then I started dreaming about fashion designing because of that show. And then that dream kind of never went away, but I wasn't really good enough in sewing back when I started really kind of harboring these dreams. And then knitting came along, and I got really excited about this hobby, and it just swept me away. And long story short, now I kind of have my childhood dream.
Yes, that is so
realized.
That is so cool. A little bit ago, Miriam said that boys now knit in school and crochet. And so, like, for the average, quote unquote, typical Finnish population, are there a lot of knitters? Like, do people keep up with it?
Yes.
Yeah.
I would say, like, my perception of the thing is that everyone in Finland knits. And everyone knows how to knit.
Yeah. Yeah, that's really interesting. And, you know, as a designer would create a very different environment than what we have here in the United States. Like, I'm guessing that the perception that people have of knitters is different there than what it is here. But I
Probably.
don't. Because here, often folks think of the stereotype as being like the old grandma with like pure white hair sitting in her rocking chair just knitting away, you know, these old-fashioned knits that nobody's going to want to use. Like outside of the knitting world. Obviously that's not the knitting world, but yeah.
Yeah, I think that has kind of been the perception here in Finland also, even though everyone knows how to knit, but in recent years that has really changed a lot.
Yeah. Maria Elise, when you were talking about your first designs, said she loves the French name. They use that expression all the time. She's up in Canada and French speaking. And then earlier Maria Elise had asked if you spin, weave, and crochet.
Yeah, I've done all of those things. I actually have 2 spinning wheels here in my office. One is a new one I bought maybe 2013. Maya Craft Rose from New Zealand, but the other one is an old spinning wheel that my dad brought me, and we can't know for certain, but it probably belonged to my grandmother's grandmother.
Whoa!
And it still works.
That's really cool. That's really neat. I haven't spun yet. It looks like a very relaxing, enjoyable.
It can be, but just like knitting, it can also be really annoying at times.
That makes a lot. Yes, I could see that too.
Back when I started spinning, like, he wouldn't comment this way nowadays, now that he knows so much more, but when I started spinning, my husband asked me, does this mean now that you won't be buying any more yarn as you can make your own? And is this going to make your life so much cheaper? And I can tell you it does not. It only means that you will also be buying wool.
Yes.
But about the question, I also do, I have done some weaving classes. It wasn't really my thing. Crochet I like. I do love to make these amigurumi softies for all the kids in my life. I use these Heidi Bears patterns that are based on these African flower motifs. They're excellent. And I really love making those, but I don't like to crochet bigger things.
Oh, yeah. Dirty Llama Lover asked if we'd be recording this for viewing later. Yes, the replay will be up later. I know it definitely will post onto mine. I don't know. I think when I tag Johanna as a collaborator, she can post it as well. But I will also be sending her the video replay. She can choose what she wants to do with it. So that kind of leads us into, I did have a list of questions, but I kind of just ramble. So I was going to ask you about your other hobbies as well. You had mentioned, I had asked in the email before about your hobbies, and you mentioned that you sew, spin, bake, do yoga, hike, and enjoy playing cards. So I was curious how do you see those as impacting your designing at all? Like, do they feel intertwined? The spinning feels like an obvious connection, but the others, do you feel like, do they feel very separate, or do you feel like you have kind of themes that run between them?
Well, most of them are just combined by the fact that they're crafts. Like, they're stuff I love to do with my hands. But I would say, as for impacting my designs, that would be hiking. Because I think probably most of my designs are in one way or another inspired by nature. So there comes the hiking. We have, I think, over 40 national parks here in Finland, and my husband is trying to collect them all. So we do quite a bit of hiking.
That is so cool. What's your favorite place in Finland?
That is a terribly difficult question, but
Or favorite places?
well, one favorite place is a national park. It's called Riisitunturi, which would translate in English into a rice fell or rice mountain.
Uh-huh.
It is this amazingly beautiful national park where they have this like 12-kilometer long hike that will lead you to such different sceneries within just one short hike that it's amazing. If you're ever in Finland, I really do recommend that. But then otherwise, as for my favorite places, I think they're all related to nature in some way. We have a summer cottage close to my mother's like childhood home. Her sister lives there nowadays, and we have a summer cottage nearby, and those are just really important lands. I feel very, very rooted and grounded there.
That's really neat. Yeah, I have been to Finland once, and I would love to go again. It was absolutely beautiful.
Where
I
in
was there.
Finland did you go?
I was there in 2015, but I was there in the summer over midsummer. Um, but I was with folks from there, so I don't even know where all I was. I flew into Helsinki. I took a train up to Vasa, and beyond that, I know we went to the sea. I know we went to a little village thing. I know we did a little bit of hiking, but I have no idea where we were. So,
Yeah, if it's not a big city, then no one knows.
yes. And then like your yoga and your baking, I'm guessing those are more like relaxing kind of hobbies for you. Like it feels like maybe you enjoy stuff that is kind of that theme of just like calm and relaxing. You kind of mentioned that earlier with the way you run your business.
Yes, I'm very much aiming for a relaxed and laid back life.
Yes.
With as little stress as possible. Baking is really relaxing, but for the yoga, the yoga I do is Ashtanga yoga, which is like the most fitness version of yoga there is. So that is really just keeping me in shape. That really helps with all this these sore muscles from knitting. It tries to keep me and my limbs in shape so that I can continue knitting for years and years.
Yes, I love that.
I used to go, I learned, because to do Ashtanga yoga, you have to take a class to learn all the different poses, because it's always the same poses in the same order, and you have to learn them to go to those classes.
Okay.
And I went to this local Ashtanga yoga school here in my hometown, and you know, like when you start a yoga class, you're supposed to be sitting there, relaxed, breathing slowly. And the place was on the 5th floor of a building with no elevator. And as I told you, I'm late for my own tea time. Do you think I was on time for a yoga class? So I would just always run there at the very last minute and was like, relax.
The most relaxing start for
Yeah.
sure. That's hilarious. So then I was interested in talking about creativity in general. This is something that I feel like comes up a fair bit in my discussions and something that I've also kind of struggled with. And you had mentioned when I had asked for two interesting facts about you. One that you mentioned is that you struggle to think of yourself as being creative because of your past, your history as a researcher in statistics. Is there like a specific moment you can think of where like you were told that you weren't creative, or like how this story developed for you?
I don't think anyone has ever told me that I'm not creative. I think it's the other way around. Like I go telling people I'm not creative,
Yes.
and then they ask me, "But you design for a living?" Yeah, I do. Like I don't mean that I'm not creative at all. It's just that I see some other things in me more pronounced. Like I, the thing I think of myself as a designer is that I'm really effective. I think the creativity thing and how I don't see myself as such a creative person is because my mom paints. And I've never been good at that. So like painting and playing an instrument and that kind of things are the things that I associate with being creative. And as for knitwear design, yeah, of course you have to come up with the kind of the shapes and the stitch patterns and color combinations and all that. But then again, it's still at the end, it's calculating.
Yeah. Yeah. That makes a lot of sense. I used to carry a narrative that I wasn't creative, I wasn't artistic, and I couldn't be. And but more recently I've been like trying to change that to like because it was like I felt like my art wasn't good enough or like my creativity wasn't good enough. Kind of like you were mentioning, like with your mom being a painter and stuff. And I'm like, I can't draw or paint or anything, but I really enjoy it. And so then like I've been trying to kind of change the narrative for myself where it's like, all right, it's not that I don't know, maybe kind of just changing my own definition of what creativity is. Like I can be a creative in different ways, and that's fine.
I think I've seen a lot of memes on the internet about this, saying that when did it become so that you have to be great and excellent in everything? Like you don't have to ace your hobbies, they are for you to have fun.
Yes. Yeah. And I definitely have been the perfectionist kind of person. So I've always had to be perfect at everything or else I don't do it. But I'm learning to leave that behind as well. So you worked at a as a researcher in the field of statistics.
Yeah.
Are you able or interested to share like what kind of work you did there, what you were researching?
The main thing I was working on was teaching AI to recognize these kind of bug species from images. So that humans wouldn't have to do it manually under a microscope. You could just feed the bugs into a tube. The computer would take photos and then tell you which species they are. So I was playing around with stuff like neural networks and all these machine learning and artificial intelligence stuff.
That is so interesting. My background is in engineering, architectural engineering, but my spouse, his undergrad was in economics and statistics, and his graduate was into statistics, and now he's a data scientist. And when I got your original email saying that you used to be a researcher in statistics, I had to tell him. He's like, well, what was she researching? I said, I have no idea. But he absolutely loves it. So that's really fascinating. Do you ever miss it?
I love the stuff I was researching. I was really into that. I love programming and calculating as I do still, even with these knitwear patterns, but I wasn't enjoying the pressure of the academia.
Yes, that makes a lot of sense.
Like the thing I really disliked about that career choice was just trying to cope with the constant imposter syndrome. Like it's not a really good selling point for a career if it automatically comes with an imposter syndrome. Like you're never gonna feel good enough.
Yeah. Have you struggled with that at all in designing?
No.
No, really.
That is my favorite thing about switching careers. Like I I'm a part of this designer group in Ravelry,
Mm-hmm.
and I constantly see people discussing there how they have an imposter syndrome in designing,
Mm-hmm.
don't feel creative enough and don't feel good enough for writing patterns and stuff. And like, I feel that the imposter syndrome was so bad in my old job that this is so relaxing and like, like switching from that to this, I know I'm great at this.
That is fascinating, and I love that you feel that way, because there are so many people who, like you said, do struggle with imposter syndrome and stuff. And the truth is, really, no matter what we're doing, we're never going to be perfect. And
No.
um, starting off, you're definitely not going to be perfect. And that's usually when folks feel the most imposter syndrome, is starting something. Kind of what we were just talking about, thinking you have to be perfect, where you
Yeah.
won't be perfect. It you you will learn and grow, and that's all part of the process. um, so what are you winding your yarn for right now? What project is that?
I should start a new design for this yarn. I I'm planning on going through some stitch dictionaries. I want to find some really simple stitch pattern and do maybe just raglan sleeves and folded ribbing
Uh-huh.
on the neckline and the cuffs, and just a really loose, relaxed, oversized sweater. Nothing fancy, just a fun stitch pattern and a beautiful soft yarn.
Yes, yes, that sounds perfectly amazing. And
I had to start winding this yarn because the things I have on my needles at the moment are nothing I could do while chatting. I'm working on a huge lace blanket.
ooh,
I'm
how
gonna put down this in just a moment. I can show you, but that is something that I will never be able to knit while chatting because I have to be checking the chart.
yes.
And then I had a nice TV knit, another a shawl, but I just bound off the stitches a few hours ago.
Is
So
that
maybe I can
we're posting?
show that one first. So
Okay,
this is a new design coming up sometime in spring. Let's see which way it is.
it is so pretty.
It just needs blocking and then I'm gonna add tassels.
And that end, did it have a little bit of lace at the end where you bound off?
Yeah.
Yes, so pretty. You also have some photos on your grid for folks that maybe want to see the full.
Yeah, I'm just gonna grab the lace blanket to show you that one. So it's looking like this at the moment. So this is not your TV knit.
No. Wow, it's going to be so beautiful when
Yeah.
How far along are you?
Uh, I finished, let's see, I think I finished 3 skeins of yarn. I originally had 6, but then I ordered 4 more because I want a really like decent sized blanket.
Uh-huh.
So it's going to take a while.
Wow. Is this a design that you're creating or somebody else's
Yeah,
design?
this
Yeah.
is my own.
Wow. It's going to be so pretty.
It's really going to be just perfect. I have unraveled it 3 times already because each time I just come up with a better idea. Like I can fix this one. It's gonna look better if I do that. And
Yes, that's the way designing so often goes. What does your design process usually look like?
usually it's really straightforward. As I told you, I'm a data person doing things really efficiently. So I do my swatch, I block it and get my gauge from it, and then I spend 5 hours on the computer. And after that, well, maybe not 5. That really depends on the design. It might be 1 hour or then 8, but I spend a few hours on the computer and then I have everything ready. Like I have the pattern created, written, and almost proofread for all 12 sizes that I always grade, and then I just need to work my own sample, check the pattern and writing while I'm working on my sample, and then once that one is finished, I get a few photos and do a test call. So I'm just all about the efficiency.
Yes.
I have done a couple sweater designs the other way around. First starting my sample, having an idea, and then just started knitting, but the pain of creating it afterwards, it's not worth it.
And I find I'm a lot more likely to have to rip back and redo if I don't have the pattern just all done to start with.
Yeah.
Starting out, I did a lot more of like kind of writing it as I went, or yeah, but as as I've gotten more familiar with knitting, it's so much more efficient, like you said, to just have it written. And yes. You mentioned that your designs are typically nature related. How does your inspiration come about, or how do you like start with your design ideas?
Well, that depends. It varies quite a lot. Like, there might be a stitch pattern, like a lace pattern, that I want to use that reminds me of a place or something in nature, or then I might have an idea, like for this one. This is from my book, Strands of Joy. I have this idea that I want to do a sweater that has the entire enchanted forest on the hem.
That's so fun.
But like, I almost find that most of my designs get their inspiration from photographing. Like, I really enjoy photography, and I usually get an idea of what kind of a photograph I want to get of the finished design, and then I have to design something for that photo.
That is so fascinating and so interesting. So do you want to give us an example about like one of your recent designs, or what you're wearing, or something like how it started?
Oh, this one. This is something I'm super excited about. This is a pattern that's going to be coming out in just a couple of weeks, just before Christmas. This is called Acorns and Antlers. And basically, I had this idea. Somehow these colors, the yarn colors, were just calling for antlers. I don't know why burgundy and gray are calling for antlers, but they were. So I had an idea that I really want to do some color work with antlers on it. But what I got really excited about was when I realized I had this idea how I could do like a really big pattern. Because if you're going to do just your regular little yoke design, it's going to be really narrow, and you can only work like really teeny tiny antlers on it. But then I had this idea that I could use, like, I think this center panel here has like 4 of those yoke charts in it. So I got this idea that I could actually use more than just one, have this separate chart for the center front. And yeah, I got super excited, and then it was really fun trying to work how you can, like, it's easy to do an antler pattern, or easy, but it's possible to do an antler pattern, but then it's a different ball game trying to figure out how you can place the increases here so that it actually fits at the beginning.
Mm-hmm. It's beautiful, like Marie-Lise said. It's so pretty. So that one will be coming out in a couple of weeks.
Yeah.
Yes, that is so fun. All right, before we do show and tell with the rest of your designs that you brought, so one other interesting fact that you shared about yourself, which I've already posted in one of the posts already, but is that you love movies. And do you want to go ahead and tell us about it? It'll be more interesting when you share about it.
Yeah, I'm a really kind of a visual person. Like, for example, when there are some book series that are really hyped, like, for example, Harry Potter's and Lord of the Rings, and just like a really good, well-loved book series, what I do is that I go see all the movies except for the very last one, and then I'm gonna go read the books so that it doesn't spoil the ending for me. But I have this visual in my head about how the world in the book looks like.
Uh-huh.
But yeah, I'm a really visual person. I love stories and I love movies. I'm a really lazy reader, so I have to really kind of fall in love with the story first to go and grab the book, and
Uh-huh.
then when I do, I'm gonna read it like 10 times in a row.
Yes.
But I really enjoy going to the movies, or did before COVID hit. I My favorite thing was to try and go see as many movies as possible in one day. So I would choose the movies and their starting times so that I could fit in like 3 movies all at once. And so I always bring my knitting, and it's a really fun way to spend a day. But my favorite thing was once at the local movie theater, like when I was going in for the third one, then the man at the door was like, "I know you from somewhere. Have you been here before?"
Oh, I love that so much. And, I feel like that's a very efficient use of your travel time. Like you've gone to the movies.
Mhm,
So,
yeah.
you might as well get as many as you can while you're there. That's so perfect. Oh. And then you also mentioned that you have a variety of tastes, like your favorite
Yeah.
movie.
Yeah, my favorite movie genres are like Disney classics, so animation movies for little kids, musicals, and then like really really scary horror movies. Like I don't enjoy splatter horror movies as much. I want to be like truly scared.
It was so funny reading what you had written because like you like said something about how you have, I don't remember how you word it, but kind of like a strange variety of tastes or mixture of tastes, and you're like Disney classics, musicals, and I'm like, that's not so weird, I enjoy those. And then you're like, and horror movies.
Yeah.
It was, I loved it so much. I am not a person for horror movies, but it's always, I don't know, fascinating to me, just in life in general, but in people, and like what I call the and statements. Like, there's this, but there's also this. Like, we're never just one thing. Like, we can be lazy and extremely productive, or we
Yeah.
can, like, I just find it so fascinating. We're never just mellow one kind of thing. And that's
Yeah,
what
but
makes it
I've
fun.
heard a couple of times how the horror movies really don't fit in my kind of my image as a person. Like all the baking, sewing, knitting, Disney movies, musicals, like dancing around the house singing happy songs, and then just
You have to have an element of surprise,
yeah.
Yeah, keep things interesting. That is so fun. It's been so fun to just get to know you a little bit more as a person. I hope other folks have enjoyed it too. Now I want to see some of your favorite designs that you've
Okay. So I did get some of my favorites here. As I said, this one was for my book Strands of Joy,
done.
which has like 20, is it 20 or 22? I don't remember. Color work designs on it. It was published last year. But then I have some other color work favorites. This one kind of started my color work journey. This one is called Budding. And you can see also here the nature inspiration. So you have flowers here. And this is one of the pieces that I wear most often.
So
Like I always go back to this one. This is super cute because it has a really cropped hem. It's super cute to wear over dresses.
Yeah.
And this is kind of like most most me, most my style. I'm not sure. I think my style is kind of romantic 40s. So this one with high-waisted dresses, that's my thing.
Is pretty much all of your designs now color work, or
No, not all of it.
no?
Not all of it. I also love working with lace, and I do design cable sweaters as well.
Oh yeah.
But
Well, and you have that.
it's kind of, people expect color work from me nowadays.
Yeah. There's nothing wrong with that either, though.
Yeah, some other favorites. This one is also from the book. This is called Juxtaposition. And the thing about it is it's all over colorwork, stranded knitting, really short floats, so it's really easy. But the thing is, I had two gradient kits, the same colors, going from white to black. And I started the main color here from the white end and the contrast color from the black end. And you can see as I get to the hem, you can't really tell them apart when they're crossing each other. And then when I got to the sleeves, the cuffs, the colors have switched around.
It's so fun. So is it basically the same design repeated
Yeah.
all the way? It's just the gradient in the yarn
Yeah.
that's a difference.
This is just about having fun with the colors.
It's so pretty.
And this is also one of my favorites because it was kind of a triumph getting it graded, because I spent, I think, a whole day trying to figure out how am I going to grade this, because you have to know, like, you have to be able to tell if I'm leaving this many stitches on holders for the sleeves, how many stitches do I have to cast on for the underarm for the pattern to be still correct to work the hem and the sleeves. And that would be fine just coming up with a number for one size, but I really kind of, as I'm into programming, I have this kind of a recipe for a sweater on my computer. So I never just count or calculate one size. I have my gauge, and then I write down my recipe, and then the computer spits out 12 sizes all at once. So it was really fun coming up with the code and math to figure it out. How does it work in any size?
Yeah, so what do you use for a program? Like, have you created your entire own app for it, or?
I use a program called R Project, which is used by a lot of statisticians. It's an open source program to fit statistical models.
Yes.
And I use it for knitwear design.
Yes, perfect. I have asked my husband to create a program for me, and he's like, So maybe what I actually should do is ask him to teach it to me, and then I can create my own.
It should be a lot of fun for you also if you have an engineering background.
Yeah, yeah. I'm curious to hear a little bit more about your book. I mean, like, I know I've seen it, I've seen some of the designs and stuff, but where did you get the inspiration? How did that process go? All of that.
That was actually, it was really fun. I had just kind of just decided that I'm gonna quit my day job at the university and just focus on knitwear design. And then I was just trying to relax, take it easy with the rest of my workload at the university, and just trying to ease into Christmas and already kind of celebrating that after New Year, I'm not coming back. And then my friends at the Line magazine, they're just living and working in the next town. It's like 2 hours from here. They had this kind of a pop-up Christmas party at their office. So I went there, and they had just posted the day before on their Instagram that they would be publishing Veera Välimäki's book.
Uh,
So I had kind of decided that I have to get over myself. I have to go there and just be loud and proud enough to ask them would they publish my book as well. So I
uh-huh.
went there and I had decided like say it even as just as a joke, just say it out loud. But when I got in into their office, Jonna was taking off my jacket and I wasn't even like properly inside yet when she asked, when are we publishing your book? And I said, maybe yesterday. And
Oh,
that was really just perfect timing because as I was just leaving my old job, it was such kind of a safety net to fall
yes.
back onto, knowing that there would be this book and they were going to make it a big deal. So I
That,
knew my new career would start off really well.
that is amazing. And so then with the even with the book, did it still feel like you had a like a more restful, slower pace, or did you, like was it stressful to be starting off with a book?
Well, so that was the Christmas party.
Uh-huh.
Then we agreed that I would go back in January, in early January, to write up the contract. So I went there, we signed the contract, and they asked me about my schedule, and I promised them, okay, sure, I can do 20 designs by the end of June. Didn't really think about it that much, went home. Then the next day I had my birthday, and some friends were coming by to have cake and coffee, and I told them about the book deal, and they started counting for me like 20 designs by the end of June. Have you realized that is one design per week? And then I was like, oh shit. So at first, I was thinking, how am I going to do this? But then again, I am really efficient in this line of work. But then COVID hit, everything shut down, and soon enough, I was so relieved to have something to focus on. So it was actually just a big relief for me to have that much work to be done.
Wow. Wow. That is so, so interesting how the timelines all like
Yeah.
everything just like fell into place. And so then I'm sure the launch and everything was extremely exciting.
Yes. But it was a bit different, because we were still in kind of a lockdown. We couldn't do any big parties back then. Like the day the book launched, I had some of the knits from the book to show at the local yarn shop, but we couldn't do it inside. So I was standing in the freezing courtyard with my designs. There were a couple people coming by, but of course it was in the middle of the winter, really bad weather and just freezing cold. And then I stood outside for an hour or two, and then we had this Instagram live with my publishers that we were filming inside the shop. And that was it. Like it was me and the yarn shop owner and then the line team across Instagram, and just us poor people.
Yes. Oh. So have you thought of doing like a sort of book tour for it now or
Well, now it wouldn't be as easy because we have the little one.
yes. Yes.
But I do have some ideas for a new book, so we'll have to see if that one pans out a bit better for a tour.
Is that under contract or is it?
Not yet, just ideas
I,
thrown around.
yeah, yeah. That is very exciting. Are people still able to purchase copies of the book?
Um, there are some left. For example, in my web shop, I do have still, I think, quite many left, but the print is sold out. So that is it, and they're not going to be doing new prints of it. You can get it as a digital version, and then if you're looking to get just a pattern or two, the rights revert back to me in February. So then all of the designs will be available as PDFs on Ravelry.
Yes. Wonderful. So where can folks find you? online, just to follow you, to purchase your patterns, any of it?
Yeah, well, folks who are here will probably find me on Instagram, well, on their own, but you can find my web shop online. It's the website is called annajohannadesigns.com. So very easy, easily found there. And then, of course, on Ravelry.
Yes, wonderful. This has been such a joy to chat with you, Johanna. Oh, I wanted to ask one other question. How did you name your business, Anna Johanna?
That is a fun story. You know, my here in Finland, your middle name can actually be your official name. So Anna is my first name, and Johanna, which is the way to pronounce it here in Finland, is my middle name, but it's also my official name. So I am called Johanna, but as Anna is my first name, in all like official places, like in school and everywhere, people would always call me Anna, and I would always have to correct, no, it's not Anna, it's Johanna. And I've been super annoyed by this my whole entire life. Like my husband always laughs how I can do like 2-hour monologues about don't name your children by their middle name. Don't do it, they will hate it. So then I started designing. All my life I've been correcting people. It's Johanna, not Anna. And then I started designing, and back then I was still working at the university. And it's really important to be found for the right things online when you're in the academia. I want people to find my research when they Google my name. So I figured I don't want to use my first name and my surname for my design business. So I decided, fine, let's go with the Anna Johanna thing, because that's also really easy for folks who are not Finnish. It's a name that pronounces well in all languages, I think. So it was a really good design name for those reasons as well. But nowadays, so my husband he's just rolling on the floor, dying of laughter, because now I've done this myself.
Yes, yes. You don't have as much leverage when you complain about it now.
No, I don't.
I wondered if that was the case because I have a friend, I think her family has roots in the Philippines, but it's the same thing. Their middle name is really their name that they go by. So, and now I have to apologize that I've been calling you Johanna this whole time instead of Johanna. And I should have known the difference, but thanks for putting up with it anyway.
Yeah, it's fine. It's fine. You can call me Johanna, whatever, as long as you know that that's my real name. Like, that's a big thing for me. Like, you were the first one to ever ask, is it Anna or Johanna?
Yeah, well, I mean, I'll admit I did assume to start with it was Anna, but then when you signed off as Johanna, I was like, oh,
Yeah, I tried to learn some little hints.
Yeah. Oh, well, this has been so fun, so lovely to chat with you. I hope someday I'll be back to Finland and maybe see you in person.
That would be amazing.
Yeah.
I really loved you having me here for a chat. Thank you so much.
Yes, it was so delightful. The replay will be up on my Instagram. I'll also post it on my YouTube, and then eventually it'll be up on the podcast. So have a lovely, beautiful day and beautiful end of your week to everybody. And thanks to those who joined live. We'll talk to you later.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye.